office of the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta is out fighting for its share of budget allocations. It is emerging that for 2 years since he handed over power to President William Ruto's administration, only 28 million shillings have been sent to that office out of a possible 1 billion shillings as budgeted for, in complete disregard to what the law says. As a result, the frustrated former president has been forced to go back to his pockets to provide for his personal and office expenses that should be taken care of by the government. This clarification, as Ken Mijungu now reports, comes at the back of a statement from the government spokesperson claiming they have sufficiently fulfilled the monetary demands of that office. But have they?
A rare press conference from the office of the third retired President of the Republic, Uhuru Kenyatta. There are very few. In fact, in the last 2 years, you can count them on one hand. In every instance, he has been drawn out by things not proper. This one was specific to details of the office, which has been crippled almost to a halt, according to Kanzi Denna, the director of communication, who addressed the media from the former president's official residence adjacent to State House, now turned Uhuru Kenyatta Institute, doubling as his post-retirement office. In here, the tranquil environment would fool one to believe it's all okay, but it's not. Staff have gone for months without pay or allowances. 2 senior members of the retired president's staff have no contracts.
Safara wake Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta.
The former president's motorcade has not been chained. They are never fueled by the state, and the office space is yet to be paid for. Yet, all these are in the law as part of his benefits.
It has never been the intention of this office to engage with State House via the public gallery on matters that should be handled between the two offices. The position of the office of the third retired president is a respect of institutions, and as such has remained silent for the last 2 years, hoping for a formal engagement with State House.
It's a huge standoff now spanning 2 years. 2 budgets later that would have seen over 1 billion shillings sent to this office. Only 28 million shillings has hit their accounts. They claim State House is non-responsive to numerous emails and mails written to address these difficulties. If they do respond, it's verbal. Non-committal, sometimes through an official means, such as text messages or even done late in the night. Kanze also alleges numerous phone calls to intimidate these staff.
And our worry as an office is a precedence that is being set by the government of the day.
Uhuru Kenyatta admits to have received his gratuity in full. His medical expenses are also taken care of. So are his allowances and monthly pension. So what is the bone of contention? Uhuru says no allocation, either the first amounting to 600 million shillings or the second amounting to just over 500 million shillings was dispersed to his office. He says his staff have not been paid, and if they have, no one is sure to what tune. Also that his official motorcade is yet to be changed, and that the ones he has been using are the same ones he used post-inauguration of William Ruto. These cars are not also being fueled by the state. In fact, the fuel cards were cancelled in March of last year. The other is his choice of office, which is his property. The government is yet to pay for the office space, yet it's within his rights. So far, only 2 trips have been funded by the state as Uhuru executes his peacekeeping mission across the region. The one taken in Ethiopia and that to Burundi. The rest are funded out of his pocket.
You see, the quagmire that this office is in is that the office cannot substantiate what has been used and where the monies have been used, since several requests and attempts to get budget returns from the accounting officer, who is the State House Comptroller, have fallen on deaf ears.
The law prescribes suitable office space not exceeding 1,000 square meters with appropriate furniture, furnishings, office machines, equipment, and office supplies to be provided and maintained by the government. Kanze says requests to come and value this property has not been heeded to.
There is actually a conversation that happened between State House and the AG's office. I'm just not able to have those documents right now, but it alluded to the fact that being able to rent an office that belongs or is related to the family was not a conflict in interest issue. That issue was raised with one of the former or one of the beneficiaries. I'm just not able to name who it is right now, but it was concluded by the AG then that is not a conflict of interest.
Last year, Uhuru made similar allegations. At that time, the relationship with State House was all but cordial. He was accused of sabotaging the government by sponsoring the Azimio demonstrations. For his alleged role in the protest, his home was raided. The Kenyatta family farm was also raided and livestock stolen. His security and that of his mother, former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta, was withdrawn. Threats were made on his livelihood, including his statutory benefits. To date, the security of his mother is yet to be restored, her statutory entitlement notwithstanding.
On the 18th of July 2023, at 7 p.m., all her drivers and security detail allocated to her were withdrawn from their residences via phone. The claims in the media that personnel were reinstated is false.
These are the reasons why the office of the retired third President Uhuru Kenyatta is reading malice and intentional frustrations from State House. But has he reached out to his successor?
There is nothing that has necessitated there to be a conversation because everything it's a rule of law. It's how things need to happen. It's the operations that would require for them to have a conversation.
The press conference coming at the back of a very unsettled mountain, seemingly pulling away from the president's camp, led by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who now more than ever before, since the inauguration, seems to be pushing for the Mount Kenya unity. Both the president's allies and his deputies' troops have not shied away from exposing the turbulent relationship. Rigathi and a few other Mount Kenya leaders have since apologized to the retired president, his family, and his mother for what happened and vowed to press on with the unity they say is of purpose. Ken Mijungu, KTN News.
All right, this particular development will have us seek some legal voice on this matter. Speaking of the rule of law, you had there Kanzadena saying there's no need really to have a sit down and have a conversation around what is now facing the office of the third president of the Republic of Kenya. And we want to be joined at this particular hour by an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Wakili Willis Otieno, just joining us this evening. It's very good to have you on this platform. A quick fire on what exactly is happening in the country. Willis, good evening. I'll start by asking what every Kenyan is asking. What exactly is happening? What do you make of this scenario? Good evening.
Good evening, Doris. The first point that we must make is that Uhuru Kenyatta is a retired president, and there's what we call the Retired President's Benefits Act. And under that act, he is entitled to certain benefits that are set out in law. And those benefits have been passed and been enjoyed by previous presidents who retired. But I must also point out that this bad behavior of not honoring our laws was started by Uhuru Kenyatta himself when at some point he had refused to give Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka their retirement entitlements, and he was arguing that they were involved in politics. One thing that all Kenyans need to understand is that these persons have retired from the office, not from their political rights in Article 38 of the Constitution. So as it were, William Ruto and his administration are behaving badly in trying to deny Uhuru Kenyatta what is lawfully his as set out in the law. He also equally has an Article 43 right to social security. And that social security has been actualized through the Retired President's Benefits Act. And when the present administration decides to play politics with it, they are merely perpetuating what was started in the previous regime. And these are the bad behaviors of Jubilee that this country needs to get rid of. That whatever the law has provided for, even if you don't agree with someone and their political views, that is what the law provides for, and you must give them that which is theirs. And so, as it were, Uhuru Kenyatta is lawfully entitled to his retirement benefits, and the state has an obligation to accord to him those retirement benefits. And as things stand now, we may be witnessing Uhuru Kenyatta being forced. We may be witnessing Uhuru Kenyatta being forced to pursue the path that was taken by former Chief Justice Masjid Koka, who had to go to court to follow up for his retirement benefits and his pensions. And the court did order the state to pay him. It is quite an unfortunate occurrence that a former president or a former chief justice or any other pensioner in this country should go for more than a month without being paid what is lawfully the entitlement under the law. And this is in breach of Article 10 of our Constitution, which provides as one of the principles of governance to be the rule of law. Uhuru Kenyatta is entitled to his benefits, and you must give him his dues.
All right. It's very important that we also touch on some of the very key things that Kenyatta's spokesperson spoke about earlier this afternoon, just before the response from the government spokesperson, Isaac Mwaura, on the same. Now, the office of the former president is really a point of contention here. Speaking of, we have an office in Nyari that was once used by the former president and the late Mwai Kibaki, which according to them is suitable for use, all right, for a man of his state. And we've also had, concerns about leasing a building that perhaps belongs to a family member. And now, of course, the office of the president, Ruto, says this is a conflict of interest. I mean, what do you take of this? What do you make of this specific scenario of the office of the former president?
I don't think there is any conflict of interest, because what he's entitled to is an office, and that office will be paid for. If that office previously belonged to him or belonged to his company, for as long as the determined rent to be paid for that office is within what they're asking for, then they're entitled to say, this is the office we'll be using, this is what where we are comfortable, just pay the rent for the use of that particular office and give him his full entitlement. It would only be wrong if Uhuru Kenyatta, for example, insisted that he be paid for rental income for the office that belongs to him or his family or his big companies, and then at the same time demand to use another state facility as his official office as a retired president. That is when you say that he's asking for too much. But as it is, I don't think he's asking for beyond that which the law provides for. If what the law provides for falls within what he has offered, then the state has an obligation to pay him, and you only pay for one office. You don't pay for two offices, because the entitlement is one official office, and he should be given that particular office. If he's comfortable using Caledonia, let him use his Caledonia and pay him what is the assessed rate that is within his entitlement as a retired former president. And then he can only use that particular office and not demand the use of any other office. That office in Nyari can still be put to any good use that the state so desires, because it's still an asset of the state and available to the state for its use.
A quick last question here. The Kenyan watching this morning has tasked me to ask quickly. We had Kanzadena give her, point of the view, and then we had the government spokesperson give his point of the view. The law knows no emotions, is truth and truth, factual, and that's it. So at this point, I mean, who is wrong, who is right? I mean, where do we move from here? Do we get a solution with the back and forth?
I think the first thing that we must check is that this conversation speaks to the overall picture of the country. And I do say that Kenya Kwanza have failed to manage the economic situation of this country, and they're looking for every opportunity to cut costs. And I think for them, they are using their dislike for Uhuru Kenyatta to say, we are not going to fund this particular office, we will not give him his entitlement, and then hide behind the clamor that he is playing politics. That is why we are not giving him what is his full entitlement. And many other Kenyans are having similar situations with the government. There are over 1 trillion pending bills. Contractors who have not been paid for what they have done for the government. Uhuru Kenyatta now falls within that group of people who government owes money and government is refusing to pay money. It is also unfortunate that at this particular time, as Kenyans are suffering, they are dying of the economic pain caused by Kenya Kwanza and William Ruto, we are now forced to discuss how much is Uhuru Kenyatta entitled to as a person. It then means that we must ask ourselves as a country, how much money do we have and how is this money used? Because we are now discussing the comfort of a former president when there are more Kenyans, millions and millions of Kenyans, who are dying because of the failed economic policies of Kenya Kwanza. That is costing them so much pain and toll pain. In fact, if you look at the figures being discussed now in terms of the former president's determined entitlement, many Kenyans will just look at those figures and, they cannot understand that that is what the entitlement is. But on a normal day, that is okay, because that is what is entitled to by our laws, and it must be given to them. But we are also saying, let us push the conversation to all pensioners. All pensioners across the republic need to be paid their money. Those who have not been paid for more than 3 months are also out there crying. And Kenya Kwanza and William Ruto need to come out and tell us what they are going to do to ensure that all pensioners, including Uhuru Kenyatta himself, receive what is their legal entitlement, including an office, including official cars, including medical cover, foreign travels. All that the law has already provided for, pensioners are entitled to it under Article 43 on the socio-economic rights of this country.
Thank you very much, Wakili, for joining us this evening. Of course, that is Willis Otieno. We hope to have you much more, especially on these matters, constitutionality, as Kenyans also do love to follow this program. So take a very short breather. We're back with the finance